Okay, so is Apple unstoppable? I want to ask Ben Wood, director at CCS Insight. He's been specializing in mobile devices for more than 14 years, and he's here with me now. Thanks so much for coming to speak to us. So skyrocketing sales for the iPhone, Apple still very much dominating this market.
Just phenomenal performance by Apple. Yeah, the metrics are extraordinary. The most iPhones ever sold, $65 billion in the bank, $6 billion nearly of profit. An extraordinary performance, and yeah, they're the kings of the hill in the smartphone business.
Now, you were saying seasonality is something to consider here when we look at these earnings.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because having watched the mobile phone market for years and years and years, usually the fourth quarter holiday period is the big one for everybody. But of course, Apple have trumped that by going even better in the first quarter, and that points to strong sales on a global basis, and particularly in China with the Chinese New Year, which is a big boost for these kind of high-profile devices that people like to get at that particular point in time.
Phenomenal sales for the iPhone, as you say, and I guess the question is, how on earth do they sustain this? How difficult is that going to be in the coming months, in the year ahead, given the competition that they're facing?
Well, it's a key question, particularly given the role that the iPhone and its associated accessories play in Apple's top-line revenue, nearly 50% now. So Apple have to keep this moving, but there seems to be insatiable desire from customers. If we look at the US market, for example, it had been expected that AT&T, who had the exclusive on the iPhone, would lose some volume to Verizon, but it looks like it's going to be a blowout quarter in the US market, but also global expansion will help them keep the momentum.
So that's where the growth is coming from, in mainly overseas markets, and then pretty much whatever product they release, there is just this demand. It's almost like they can do no wrong.
It's incredible. What's amazing as well about the iPhone 4 was, you'll remember at its launch there was a lot of criticism about performance of the antenna and those sorts of things, but the quarter after that it continued to do well and sales continued to soar.
Why is that? How do they keep their customers interested? How do they keep their loyalty, their enthusiasm for this brand?
Well, there's something about the brand which has become iconic, the way they market it, the retail environments that they have, and again, strong numbers for them in their retail. But I think beyond that, Apple cracked the nut with regards to the mobile phone being more than just the hardware, but the software and the services and applications on it. Hundreds of thousands of applications on the Apple iPhone now. They've paid out $2 billion to developers since its inception, and that's where they're getting all of the investment. Application developers with great ideas go to the iPhone first, so that gives them a competitive edge.
And it's not just about their technology, is it? Their technology is advanced, but you've also got, Google's Android and other operating system as well. It's the way they package their product, the way they sell it to consumers, the way they design it.
Well,
this is what keeps people coming back.
Consistency's been a key thing as well. So with Android, there's a whole variety of different product shapes and sizes, different app stores. What Apple have been able to do is offer a very easy to understand experience for users and make it very easy for them to buy content on the device as well. And that's a key area and future growth area for Apple, where they will look to make as much money from the hardware and more from the actual services that they're offering, which goes with iPhone, iPad and other assets that they have.
Now, one weak spot, or you might say one slightly disappointing area, iPad sales miss estimates because of this transition between iPad 1 and 2. How do you see this playing out in the coming months? I'm
really surprised by the amount of coverage that's been getting. We'd already predicted. It was a little bit below where we thought it would be, but we already knew it was going to be a soft quarter. The rumour mill around the iPad 2 was so strong. People were deferring their purchase to the second quarter. I think the biggest issue was Apple was completely overwhelmed by the demand for iPad 2.
Well, it's not a bad problem to have, is it? They're facing more of a challenge in producing their products than actually selling them.
Yeah, I mean, they'll be frustrated. I think they called it the mother of all backlogs in terms of the way that they see the iPad now, but I think it sets them up for a fantastic year. They have created a new category of tablet, which even when we first looked at it, we were very sceptical they could do it.
And also a lot of competitors coming into the tablet market now. Will Apple continue to maintain its edge, its lead, particularly if there is? Will they lose out in terms of sales if there is a shortage in the coming months?
I think that Apple have firmly put a stake in the ground in terms of owning the tablet category right now, and we've seen missteps by some of the rivals. Motorola maybe going to market a little bit too early with the Zoom. BlackBerry Playbook having mixed reviews on its inception. So we'll have to see how it turns out, but I have no doubt that Apple is going to be the dominant player in tablets this year, and the iPad will have a record quarter, second quarter.
Now, I can't let you go without asking about Nokia, expecting their results at some point in the next hour.
Yep.
In fact, just under an hour. What are your expectations? What a contrast, having just spoken about Apple.
the juxtaposition of the two companies. You know, you see, you know, Nokia used to be kings of the hill, 40% market share. They had all the metrics.
I actually remember that.
Yeah, their
that
share.
Made me old.
Yeah, and it was amazing. You know, their share has slid. They really misread the smartphone. They were wrong-footed, like all of their competitors, by Apple, and they've now got to figure out how they return. They've decided to take a radical strategy, abandon their own software, and go with Microsoft Windows Phone.
Is that going to give them a boost?
That's going to give them a boost, but not in the near term. You know, they've got 12 months to sort that out. We're waiting for the first milestone to emerge, which will be the agreement, the definitive agreement between Microsoft and Nokia. But I think everybody on these results, the smartphone stuff is done. What they're going to be looking at is Nokia's core business, those mass market phones, that lean, mean phone-making machine that's spewing anywhere between 9, 10 and 11 phones a second out into the marketplace to markets where people aren't buying smartphones. They're still buying phones that they talk into.
Yeah, that's the driver of growth for them, isn't it? Very much. Lean,
Absolutely.
mean, making phone machine. That was nice. Thanks very much, Ben Wood. Good to talk to you. Coming again.